I'm playing as black, and well, my opponent played e3 in the first move. Probably not such a good idea. Usually we want to control the center, so e4 is clearly better. At this point I'm going to play the move d5. So he played g3, he's doing the fianchetto. Probably he wants to develop the bishop over g2, which he didn't need to do since he played e3 in the first move. So now he's just like opening two spaces for the bishop. That means that he's wasting a tempo to develop the bishop. I'm just going to develop my knight. Something like knight f6 is very normal. At the beginning of the game there are the three principles for the opening, and these principles are, well, he plays bishop g2. Before I say the principles, let me play something here. I'm going to control the center with two pawns. Usually when we can do this, it's very good since we're controlling many squares with the pawns. He plays d3, and I'm just going to develop the bishop to d6. The principles for the opening I was saying are control the center, these four squares in the middle of the board, develop minor pieces, and castle. Those are the three main principles for the opening. That's what we should do during the opening if you're a beginner trying to improve. So bishop d2, I'm just going to castle right now. I think it's a good moment to do that. The chess game has like three main phases. We should be talking about opening, middle game, and end game. We're playing the opening right now, is when we are developing pieces. Also in the opening we need to look at the threats our opponents might have. For example, he played knight c3 right now. He's threatening my pawn on d5 with two pieces, the knight and the bishop. So I need to do something to defend that pawn. Probably a move like bishop a6 is fine, defending and developing, but also I'm looking at this move, c6, because I'm protecting my central pawns with another pawn. That's also very good, and then I can do other things with the bishop, like going to g4. So this idea looks fine. Also I'm putting a wall here, so the bishop on g2 is not too active over there. So I think this is a good idea. He's playing a3, not developing, so probably not so good, but also controlling g4, so now I cannot put the bishop there. In the end I'm just going to put the bishop on e6, just finishing my development when I later develop the knight, I mean. So g4, and again he's not developing any piece, but it's a little aggressive, this move. Probably he wants to play g5, but we are still in the opening, his king is still in the center. I don't think it's a good idea to play so aggressively with the pieces undeveloped. So I'm just going to continue my development. Now I'm finishing development with knight b d7, and then I'm almost like starting the middle game. g5, he's attacking my knight. Probably I need to move it, but knight d8 is the only move I can play, but it's more or less fine. I'm thinking that maybe later I could play some f6 to activate my rook over that file, since the king is still in the middle. Also I'm thinking that this knight could be active over c7 later. And well, he's advancing with the pawns. He's playing some kind of pawn storm against my king, but again he doesn't have like too many pieces over there, so I don't think his attack is going to be too strong. I think I'm going to play the move f5 here. I'm controlling more squares in the center. If he trays here, I can recapture with knight or also with queen, and I will have a lot of pressure over the f file. If he doesn't take, as I said, I'm controlling many squares in the center. That's good. We're playing this time control 5 minutes and 15 seconds increment or something like that. So yeah, like 25 seconds increment. So bishop a3, and now he's developing. I cannot play f4 or maybe some other break. Something important is that when your opponent has the king in the middle of the board and you're already castled and your king is safe, it's going to be a good idea to try to open the position. So that's something I keep in mind very seriously here. But my knight, for example, on e8 is not fine. The knights are pieces that are really bad on the edge of the board. So I'm going to improve my knight a little, and also I'm protecting the bishop, since I couldn't play f4 before because my bishop was hanging, but now with the knight protecting is a move I'm considering very seriously. So f4, that should not be so great. because of the principle I said. This principle for the middle game, where if the king is in the middle, we need to keep things blocked in the center. If we open lines, then there will be attack against the king. So let's see, f4, and the first move I'm looking at is just trading and using the open file. But also I'm looking at something like d4, opening even more lines against the king. That looks interesting. I think I'm just going to trade here on f4, and then when he recaptures, I'm probably playing d4, forcing his knight to go to a bad square, also improving my bishop over here, also improving my knight, and again, development problems and king in the middle of the board. That's not good. Remember the three principles: center, development, and castling, and that's what that's a problem for white here. White is not white has not finished development, and white has not castled. So 92, and the plan in a position like this is to continue improving. If we don't see any way to win directly, we just continue improving our position. So I'm looking at moves like bishop d5, improving the bishop, getting a tempo, or knight d5. But we always need to look at the threats our opponent might have with his last move. Knight e2 is also attacking the pawn on d4, which is a central pawn. It's an important pawn. I think we need to play here c5 to protect that pawn. So I don't see anything better than that. I'm just going to play c5, but I keep those ideas I said for the next moves, like bishop or knight d5 improving. Also rook e8 is an important move for the future. I guess a good move for white here is just like knight f3, but I could be playing bishop d5, pinning knight, because the rook is behind, so I should have a good position anyway. So rook h2, and well, he's trying to improve the rook a little, but that's not what he really needs. What he really needs is to put the knight to play and castle. So let's see how I can take advantage of this situation. I really like the idea knight d5, knight e3. This is a nice square for my pieces. This square e3 is not protected by other pawns. Whenever you see squares on your opponent's position that are not protected by pawns, those are squares that we can try to use, even more when we have good protection like here with the pawn on d4. So yeah, I think I'm going to play knight d5 here and see what happens with this move. Also, this pawn on f4 doesn't have too much protection, so at some point queen c7, I could be attacking with 3 pieces on c7. Attack your opponent's pawn, weak pawns or weakest points is a pretty good strategy for the middle game. So that's it. The idea is that we continue improving. If we can get a tempo, we will get it, but always improving our position. So yeah, queen c7 looks really tempting here because we are also connecting the rooks, and that's another rule for the middle game. In general, at some point when we start the middle game, we need to connect the rooks so they are protecting each other, so they are ready to fight for open files. So the move queen c7 is really good. We are doing the connection, but also we are getting tempos attacking weak squares on white's position. I think the only way to defend this pawn right now is by playing queen c1, but again, this is looking bad. This is looking bad for white. Even when I don't have a clear way to win or something, the position is good. It's better for me. So after queen c1, I'm looking at something like rook e8. I could try this rook, but the problem is that I will have to move the bishop at some point, and then the pawn on f5 could be hanging. So I'm planning to keep the rook here for some time to make sure I can move the bishop and the pawn on f5 is protected. So yeah, rook a goes to e8 is the move I really like here. As we don't have any strong tactics, we just continue improving. So king f2, well, at least he moved the king away from the open file. So now what? There's an idea here by playing knight e3 where I'm losing one pawn, but I continue opening things. I still don't see it very clear, so probably I will try to find something better. For example, bishop e2 is looking interesting. I know he can capture the pawn on f5, but then I will play bishop h5, and this file will be open where the king is now. My bishop will be very good, my rook will be very good too, and on top of that I will be getting a tempo by attacking the bishop. So yeah, I'm gonna try this idea. Bishop f7, if he takes here, I play bishop h5, and then I feel I have a really good compensation, and this is also something we need to do, or we can do in middle games. At some point we can sacrifice one pawn if we see we have compensation, enough compensation for the pawn. Like here, the king in a bad position, we're opening lines, we're activating two of our pieces like the bishop and the rook. Also the other rook is getting more active, so the pawn sacrifice makes sense here, I think. Well, king g3, and the king is getting away from the f5, but still is getting on the same line as the bishop. That should not be good. So we always need to look at checks, captures, threats all the time. I'm checking if there is any tactic like some bishop takes pawn or some rook takes knight, but I don't think those things are working by now. So as I said, if we don't have anything like winning, any tactics, we continue improving our position. So I'm just going to play bishop h5, improving my bishop. Probably at some point I can play some bishop g4 to entice him to trade and open the file. That's an idea. Also, a very important idea here is the move knight e3. I think I've mentioned this sometime before. Now it's very strong because the rook is guarding e3, so it looks fine. Also, when I play knight e3, I will be blocking bishop and queen, so it looks really an important idea here. I will play it definitely. I like this move, knight e3. Yeah, and my knight is a little better now. My bishop and my queen are putting a lot of pressure. I'm clearing d5, so probably this knight that was doing nothing is a piece that we can improve in the next moves, like knight b6, knight d5, and that's another rule for the middle game and for the positions where we're attacking. We need to attack with as many pieces as we can if we want to succeed in our attack. So that move is doing that, it's clearing d5, so we could use the other knight, which is doing nothing right now, almost nothing. So that's another good reason to play knight e3 here. Okay, b4. Again, we need to work with checks, captures, threats. I have the feeling we should have something over here. So let's see. Check, bishop takes pawn, knight takes bishop, and then what do we play? Queen takes knight, king takes queen. We don't have checkmate here, right? So that is not working. Captures, we don't have any really strong capture. I mean, we can take here, but this is connecting our central pawns. I don't think I have to rush with this idea. And then there is threats. Checks, captures, threats. Yeah, because that's a rule we need to follow. In general, we search for checks, captures, and threats, because those are the moves that force your opponent a little more. They need to replay something specific. So b4. What about this capture? Bishop takes knight, king takes bishop, queen c6, check. And well, I don't see anything special. He just moves back. Well, I'm just going to play b6. I'm going to make sure my pawns are protected. I'm creating a chain of pawns there in the center, and I will think in the next turn how to make more progress. Yeah, because there's this idea queen c6. It looks fine. The queen is better, but I'm putting more pressure here, but I'm not putting more pressure here. So it's not completely clear how good this could be. Yeah. So there's another move here, knight g4, and okay, b5. Well, blocking the center is not a good idea. If your opponent is attacking, on a side of the board, you need to react in the center, you need to open and counterattack in the center. Blocking like this is not fine, because now I can continue putting more pressure here, and I don't have to worry about the pressure in the center. So either knight g4 or knight e5. Knight e5 is losing material, but yeah, I don't think I can get too much with this knight e5. Yeah, I'm just going to play knight g4 here, because if he takes, I think I could capture with the pawn to open the file, but then he moves the knight back, and yeah, he's defending very well. So yeah, if he takes, probably I have to capture with the bishop. Yeah, I don't think it's working the capture with the pawn, so I will have to capture with the bishop. Something good is that I could finally open the file again if he trades. Also, something good is that he loses a good piece, but yeah, I'm not winning yet. So let's see how we can continue making some progress here. Rook g2. Well, the move queen b7 is again very interesting because the pressure is big here on f3. So let's see how he defends after this, because there is a threat and I don't see many options. Before I didn't play it because he had the move bishop g2, and then he could defend, and my queen would be on the same line as his bishop, so I don't get anything. However, now he doesn't have the move bishop g2, so I think it makes more sense. I think he can defend. For example, queen f1 is a move here. He has some ways to defend, but still, I like it. I think it's a good idea. Also, I can just move the knight, but I don't think it's such a great idea. The knight is giving important protection here. So probably queen f1 is the best move he can play at this point. Okay, so queen f1, and now what? How do we continue putting more and more pressure every time here? So, well, knight e3 is interesting. Now he has to capture, and then my rook will be on e3. I will be attacking over the rank, pinning this knight, and also the rook is very active. So he has to play rook f2 here, because I'm attacking 3 times f3, and he's defending only twice. So probably rook f2. But then what? How do I win this? I mean, I feel I'm winning, but I don't see how. So let's see. Well, I'm looking at bishop g4, then he takes, I take. I'm looking at rook takes knight, but then he takes, bishop takes pawn, he doesn't have to capture. So yeah, this is one of those positions where we are fine, but there's no way to win immediately. So we just need to continue making progress. There's knight e5 here, but I don't get too much. I mean, pawn takes, I can play f4, king goes back. Yeah, this is not going to work. Let's say this bishop g4, because in many lines I want to go to the open file and the pawn is hanging here on f5. So even if he doesn't trade and plays the move bishop g2, putting the bishop on the great diagonal, even if he does that, I will have a good position then, and I will be able to play rook e8 sometime later. That should be fine. Yeah, bishop g2 is probably the best move, because trading is not looking so good, because then the file is open for my rook. So probably that's the best idea. And then I'm planning to move my queen to c7 and increase the pressure over there. Okay, so knight g1, that's probably a little dubious. Remember we said we need to work with checks, captures, threats all the time. So that's what I'm going to do here. And there is this idea, bishop takes pawn, and it's looking really good, because I'm extracting the king outside. This time he has to capture with the king, that's good for me. And then I have this check over the diagonal, and then I have the feeling that it's almost made over there. So bishop takes pawn, he cannot take with the king, he will have to go back. I don't know what is going to happen after that, but I know I got one pawn. I know the king is still in a very bad position. I know my bishop is better after that capture, so I'm just going to play bishop takes pawn right now. As I said, king g2 is the best option. I'm going to use my opponent's time, and that's also something I really want to share with you. When we're playing, we could think in our opponent's turn to play, so we don't waste our own time later. So I'm going to use my opponent's time here to find the move, and this is also easier to do when we see our opponent has only one move. Here the only move is king g2, so we can just focus on how to play against king g2. I was looking at knight e5, improving, putting more pressure. That's a really nice move, I think. I mean, all my pieces are attacking and all his pieces are defending. That should be good for me. So yeah, knight e5 is looking just too good. I'm not going to calculate too much because it's looking perfect. Right now I have like 4 pieces attacking, he has like 4 pieces defending, so right now I'm not getting material up. However, rook e1, this queen has to defend here and defend here. Maybe at some point I can take advantage of that. However, I don't see how. I could take advantage of that. So let's see, knight takes knight, knight takes knight, bishop takes bishop, king takes. I don't get anything. Rook takes rook, queen takes rook. I can play rook e8 then, that looks fine, but it's not like immediately winning, but looks fine. The other thing I can do is just rook e8 directly. He should not trade because then I take, but then he's still fine. So I'm going to trade here and then play rook e8. I don't see a way to win. So this idea of trading and improving is always good, right? That's what we said. And then, yeah, well, if he takes with the queen, I'm also looking at this idea. Bishop e3, if he moves the rook, I take the knight. The knight is an important defender here. So I'm removing a defender. And I'm winning a piece. Yeah, bishop e3 should be better. I'm going to repeat it. If he moves the rook back, I take the knight on g1, which is the defender of the knight on g3. So then I will be able to capture material if he goes there. Yeah, so we said bishop takes knight, and this is also something I want to highlight. Once the position is there, even if we think we are winning, we don't have to rush, okay? We can check for a second time. One of the most common mistakes for beginners is that they like rush too much. They get like too excited when they think they are winning. So let's analyze a little. We don't have to rush here. So bishop takes knight, and if he captures with the rook, he loses here. If he captures with the king, he loses here. But also there is this move. Bishop takes knight, queen takes knight on e5. And then I don't have more pressure. Yeah, so it's not really working by now, but I will do something. I will protect my rook, my knight first with rook e8, also improving the rook. And now I'm threatening bishop takes knight, because he won't be able to capture, and when he recaptures here either with king or rook, I will be taking the knight on f3. So yeah, this is fine now. I don't see how he's going to avoid bishop takes knight. Maybe he can play like queen here, but still bishop takes knight is very strong because I'm getting rid of 2 defenders, not only one. Bishop takes knight, I'm getting rid of this defender, and I'm getting rid of the defender that retakes there. So yeah, I don't see how can white defend in this position against that threat. In this game I was playing against a lower rated opponent, so I could explain everything. Since against a strong opponent it could be really hard to be playing and explaining. Also, we are taking advantage of his mistakes to explain what is wrong and how to exploit what is wrong. That was the idea. That's why we decided to play against a player with this rating. So h5, and then we said, remember we don't have to rush with even if we think we are winning. We said we will capture here. He captures with rook, I take. He captures with king, I take here. So yeah, I don't think there's anything better than bishop takes knight, so I'm just going to play it. My knight is now protected by the rook, so bishop takes knight should be fine. It's going to be winning the game, definitely. I mean, bishop takes bishop doesn't change anything. I just recapture, even more pressure on f3, and out of that, I don't see what he's playing. I mean, maybe queen g3, defending 3 times there on g3, on f3, I mean. But yeah, he's lost. Once we get material advantage, the rule to play is trade as many pieces as you can, and this is essential if you really want to win many games. When you have material up, you need to trade as many pieces as possible, knight by knight, bishop by bishop, rook by rook, queen by queen. So that's the idea. Probably in this position, as the king is so discovered, we could have some plans of starting some really strong attack, as our pieces are so active, and maybe we don't have to start trading and we can just focus on giving checkmate very soon. But that doesn't happen so often. In general, the best plan is trade and win. Study Capablanca's games, and he always did that, and he won many games with this theory. He was very good in these positions, trading and winning with some small material up. Okay, he takes with the king on g1. Let's see what are the options. I think taking with the knight is perfect because it's check, and then I will be getting the queen on e1. So yeah, I'm sure this is the best. I mean, this is just winning, so I'm not going to try to find anything better than that because I'm just getting a queen. That's huge advantage. So king f2, yeah, we take the queen. We don't have anything better than that, and then we are winning with this. I mean, we capture as much material as we can first. If he trades here, we can recapture, and then this is going to be made very soon using my queen, cutting off the king, and then promoting. I will be winning extremely soon here. If you guys have any question, let me know in the comments. Check out this video over here. I'm sure you will like it. Thank you, like, subscribe. See you on the next.